What if I told you that the difference between success and failure, between hope and despair, between conquering your fears and being conquered by them, could come down to something as simple as the way you start your morning? What if the key to changing your life and perhaps even the world was hiding in plain sight in your bedroom, waiting for you every single day when you wake up? This isn't some mystical secret or complex philosophy. It's something so fundamental, so basic, that most of us dismiss it without a second thought. Yet according to one of America's most decorated military leaders, this simple act holds the power to transform everything. Welcome to Make Your Bed, Little Things That Can Change Your Life, and Maybe the World by Admiral William H. McRaven. This isn't just another self-help book filled with empty platitudes. It's a profound exploration of how the smallest actions can create the largest impacts, written by a man who spent nearly 4 decades in the most elite military unit in the world, the Navy SEALs. Admiral McRaven knows something about overcoming impossible odds. As the commander who oversaw the mission that eliminated Osama bin Laden, he's no stranger to high-stakes situations where failure isn't an option. But the wisdom he shares in this book doesn't come from the battlefield or the situation room. It comes from something much more fundamental, the grueling 6 months of basic underwater demolition training, known as BUDS, that transforms ordinary men into Navy SEALs. It was during this crucible of physical and mental testing that McRaven learned 10 simple lessons that would guide him through a lifetime of challenges. These aren't abstract concepts or theoretical frameworks. They're practical, actionable principles that emerged from the sweat, exhaustion, and determination of SEAL training. And remarkably, they all begin with the most mundane of tasks: making your bed. Picture this. It's 5:30 in the morning at the Naval Special Warfare Training Center in Coronado, California. The sun hasn't yet risen, but dozens of would-be SEALs are already standing at attention beside their bunks. Every morning, without fail, these men must make their beds to perfection. The sheets must be pulled tight enough to bounce a quarter. The blanket must be centered precisely. The pillow must be fluffed and positioned just so. It seems almost absurd. Grown men, many of whom have college degrees and previous military experience, spending precious minutes obsessing over hospital corners and tucked sheets. But this isn't about bed making. It's about something far more profound. When you make your bed every morning, you accomplish the first task of the day. It's a small win, but it's a win nonetheless. And that small victory gives you pride, encourages you to complete another task, then another and another. By the end of the day, that one simple task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed reinforces the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. This principle became crystal clear to McRaven during his time in training. He watched his fellow trainees who embraced the small details, who took pride in making their beds perfectly, who maintained their equipment meticulously, who paid attention to seemingly insignificant requirements, were the same ones who excelled in the water, on the obstacle course, and under pressure. Conversely, those who dismissed these small tasks as unimportant often struggled with the bigger challenges. But the lessons from SEAL training extend far beyond personal discipline. The second principle McRaven discovered was the power of teamwork in its purest form. In the SEAL teams, you're assigned a swim buddy, a partner who becomes your lifeline during the brutal training exercises. You eat together, sleep near each other, and most importantly, you never leave each other behind. During the treacherous night swims in the frigid Pacific Ocean, when exhaustion threatens to overwhelm you and the darkness seems to swallow your sense of direction, your swim buddy becomes more than a partner. They become your anchor to survival. If one person quits, both people quit. If one person fails, both people fail. This creates a bond that transcends individual achievement and transforms it into collective success. McRaven learned that you can't succeed alone. No matter how strong, how smart, or how determined you are, there will always be moments when you need someone else to help you reach your goal. The SEAL teams taught him that true strength isn't found in individual prowess, but in the willingness to both support others and accept support when you need it most. This lesson took on new meaning during one of the most challenging aspects of SEAL training: surf torture. Picture yourself lying in the freezing Pacific surf for hours, waves crashing over your body, sand grinding against your skin, your core temperature dropping dangerously low. The instructors are looking for signs of weakness, waiting to see who will ring the bell and quit. In these moments of extreme physical and mental stress, it's not individual willpower that gets you through, it's the knowledge that the person next to you is suffering just as much, and neither of you is going to give up. The third lesson emerged from an unexpected source: failure itself. In SEAL training, when you fail to meet standards during boat races or timed runs, you don't just get a lecture or extra push-ups. You get circus training, additional hours of the most grueling exercises while your successful classmates rest and recover. Your already exhausted body is pushed even further, and your spirit is tested in ways you never imagined possible. But something remarkable happens during these punishment sessions. McRaven discovered that the students who endured the most circus training, who faced the most failure and adversity, often emerged as the strongest performers. They developed a resilience and mental toughness that their more naturally gifted classmates sometimes lacked. They learned that failure isn't the end of the story, it's often the beginning of your greatest comeback. This principle proved invaluable throughout McRaven's military career. Every mission didn't go according to plan. Every strategy didn't work perfectly. Every decision didn't yield the expected results. But those early lessons in embracing failure as a teacher rather than fearing it as an enemy became the foundation for adapting, learning, and ultimately succeeding in the face of adversity. The fourth lesson came from observing something that seemed impossible. During training, McRaven noticed that certain students, not necessarily the biggest, strongest, or most athletic, consistently outperformed their peers in the water. These individuals possessed something that couldn't be measured in physical dimensions. They understood the power of hope and the danger of giving up. There's a moment in every SEAL candidate's training when quitting seems not just reasonable, but logical. Your body is screaming in pain, your mind is foggy with exhaustion, and every rational thought tells you that continuing is madness. It's in these moments that the true test begins, not of your physical capabilities, but of your willingness to hold on to hope when hope seems foolish. McRaven watched as students who seemed destined for success rang the bell and walked away, while others who appeared to be struggling found reserves of strength they didn't know they possessed. The difference wasn't in their training or natural ability, it was in their refusal to surrender to despair. As we delve deeper into these transformative lessons, we begin to see how the principles learned in the brutal crucible of SEAL training apply far beyond military service. They speak to fundamental truths about human potential, about the power of small actions to create large changes, and about the extraordinary results that can emerge from ordinary discipline. The fifth lesson McRaven learned was perhaps the most counterintuitive of all. Sometimes you have to take risks to move forward. During SEAL training, there's an obstacle course that includes a slide for life, a rope stretched between two towers, 30 feet above the ground. The natural instinct is to inch along slowly, gripping tightly with both hands and feet, playing it safe. But this cautious approach actually makes the crossing more dangerous and exhausting. The secret, McRaven discovered, was to go headfirst down the rope as fast as possible. Speed, not caution, was the key to success. By moving quickly, you generated momentum that carried you to the end before your grip could fail. This became a metaphor for life itself. Sometimes the biggest risk is not taking any risk at all. Sometimes you have to let go of the safety you think you have to gain the security you actually need. This principle would serve McRaven well throughout his military career. From leading dangerous missions in Iraq and Afghanistan to making split-second decisions that could mean the difference between life and death. He learned that calculated risks, taken with proper preparation and clear purpose, often lead to the greatest rewards. The sixth lesson came from one of the most feared aspects of SEAL training encounters with the instructors who seemed determined to break every candidate's spirit. These weren't just tough teachers. They were psychological warriors who knew exactly which buttons to push to make a person quit. They would single out individuals for ridicule, pile on additional punishment, and create scenarios designed to crush hope. But McRaven observed something remarkable about how different people responded to this treatment. Some candidates crumbled under the pressure, allowing the instructor's words and actions to define their reality. Others, however, learned to stand up to these bullies not through defiance or anger, but through quiet determination and unwavering commitment to their goals. The lesson was clear. There will always be people who want to see you fail, who will try to convince you that you're not good enough, not strong enough, not worthy enough. Your power lies not in avoiding these encounters, but in refusing to let others define your worth or determine your destiny. Sometimes you have to stand up to the bullies, not just for yourself, but for everyone who is watching and hoping that someone will have the courage to say no more. The seventh principle emerged from the darkest moments of training, those times when everything seemed hopeless, when the water was too cold, the runs too long, the obstacles too high. It was during these moments that McRaven learned about the power of inner strength and the importance of reaching deep within yourself to find reserves you didn't know existed. In SEAL training, there comes a point in every exercise where your body wants to quit. where your mind tells you it's impossible to continue. But if you can push past that moment, if you can find one more stroke, one more step, one more breath, you discover that your limits are often self-imposed. The human spirit, McRaven learned, is capable of far more than we typically ask of it. This lesson took on profound meaning during actual combat operations. When everything goes wrong, when the mission parameters change, when equipment fails, when teammates are wounded, it's not your training or your equipment that pulls you through. It's that inner reserve of strength that you've learned to access in your darkest moments. The 8th lesson was about the power of giving others hope. During one particularly brutal night of surf torture, when hypothermia was setting in and several students were on the verge of ringing the bell, one student began to sing. His voice, cracking with cold and exhaustion, rose above the sound of the crashing waves. Soon, others joined in. The instructors, perhaps recognizing the power of what was happening, allowed the singing to continue. That simple act of one person refusing to surrender to despair gave everyone else the strength to endure. McRaven realized that leadership isn't always about being the strongest or the smartest person in the room. Sometimes it's about being the person who refuses to give up hope, who reminds others that dawn will come, that this too shall pass. The 9th principle built upon this foundation, the understanding that you can change the world by changing the lives of 10 people. If those 10 people change the lives of 10 more, and those 100 change the lives of 10 more, then in just a few generations, you've impacted hundreds of thousands of lives. The mathematics of hope are surprisingly simple, but their power is extraordinary. McRaven saw this principle in action throughout his military career and beyond. A single act of courage by one person could inspire others to acts of bravery. One person's refusal to accept injustice could spark movements that changed nations. The lesson was clear: never underestimate the power of one person to make a difference. The final lesson brought everything full circle, back to that simple task of making your bed. Sometimes, despite all your preparation, all your effort, all your determination, things don't go according to plan. Missions fail. Dreams are shattered. Hope seems lost. In these moments, the only thing you can control is how you respond to failure. McRaven learned that true character isn't revealed in victory, it's revealed in how you handle defeat. When everything falls apart, when your best efforts aren't enough, when the world seems determined to crush your spirit, you still have choices. You can still make your bed. You can still complete the small tasks that give structure to your day and purpose to your actions. This isn't about denial or refusing to acknowledge failure. It's about maintaining your dignity, your standards, and your hope for tomorrow, even when today feels like a complete disaster. Because here's what McRaven discovered: the very act of maintaining discipline in small things during your darkest hours builds the foundation for your eventual comeback. These 10 lessons, born from the crucible of SEAL training, but applicable to every human endeavor, point to a profound truth about the nature of success and fulfillment. They remind us that greatness isn't reserved for the naturally gifted or the supremely talented. It's available to anyone willing to embrace the power of small, consistent actions and the discipline to maintain them, especially when the world seems to be falling apart. The wisdom of make your bed ultimately rests on this simple but revolutionary idea that ordinary people, through ordinary actions performed with extraordinary consistency and purpose, can achieve extraordinary results. That the difference between a life of meaning and a life of regret often comes down to the accumulation of small choices made daily, starting with the simple act of making your bed each morning. As Admiral McRaven reminds us, if you want to change the world, start by making your bed. Because in that simple act lies the seed of every great accomplishment, every act of courage, every moment of hope that has ever changed the course of history. Thank you for joining me on this journey through Admiral McRaven's transformative lessons. If these insights resonated with you, I'd love to invite you to subscribe for more thoughtful explorations of the books that shape our understanding of what it means to live a meaningful life. I'm curious which of these 10 lessons spoke to you most powerfully. Was it the importance of making your bed each morning, the power of never swimming alone, or perhaps the courage required to stand up to life's bullies? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you found value in this exploration, consider sharing it with someone who might benefit from Admiral McRaven's hard-won wisdom. Sometimes the most profound gift we can give another person is the reminder that their daily choices matter, that their small actions have the power to create extraordinary change. Until next time, remember, the world is waiting for what you have to offer. Start with your bed and see where that first small victory takes you.